Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a quick spin through the biggest topics in the sport. This week, we've got leading Logan Paul authority, Danny Segura, MMA Junkie Radio's gorgeous George Garcia, and for the very first time, MMA Junkie assistant managing editor, Matt Wells. So let's just get right into it. Guys, like it or not, we're going to start with Floyd Mayweather versus Jake Paul. No, we're not. Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. I can't even keep him straight anymore. It was a polarizing event, to say the least, both before and after the card, which went the full 8 rounds without having a winner declared. So give me one key takeaway you had about this event, whether it be about Logan Paul, Floyd Mayweather, maybe you want to throw Jake Paul in there, I don't know, or even this current boom of whatever the heck this is that we're doing, this celebrity boxing. Give me one takeaway. Let's put 2 minutes on the clock. Danny, have at it.
My biggest takeaway is that Floyd Mayweather should call it quits, should hang up the glove, should retire from exhibition fighting for good. He's obviously retired from professional boxing back in 2017. He said, he was done. He's not going to return, but he is now in this entertainment area. He always says, I retired from fighting, but I didn't retire from entertainment. But I think it's time to just call it quits altogether and, enjoy your life, enjoy your multiple millions of dollars. Because, look, the whole selling point of this fight is, when was Mayweather going to stop Logan Paul? When? What round was he going to just decide, hey, I'm ending the fight right now? But clearly that wasn't the case. The fight went to distance. I'm not going to say it was even and it was close, but somewhat competitive. I mean, Logan Paul, who's only been training for 2 years, landed a couple good shots on him, was able to withstand Floyd Mayweather's best shots. So look, it's not looking good. And Floyd Mayweather is not someone that built his legacy of the greatest knockouts or the most exciting fighter. No, he built his legacy out of just being classes beyond everybody else. So in this entertainment era where he's starching Conor McGregor, Tenshin Nasukawa, and all of a sudden, you see a little dip and he starts going to the distance with the YouTuber, I don't want to see his legacy get tarnished. Please, Mayweather, call it quits. You're undefeated. Stay undefeated. Leave up top. What do you think, Matt?
Listen, Floyd not getting the knockout here, I think, was by design, because it keeps the train of these crazy circus events going. Every social media influencer out there, other YouTuber, they believe they can get in there with the best in the world and actually be competitive. So it just keeps this train going. And, however long these circus events keep going, they're going to be confident. We're going to see people calling out real boxers, real fighters that won't get in there and play around like Floyd did. And somebody's going to seriously get hurt at some point.
Boy, Matt, I wonder if you're right. I've been having that thought in the aftermath. Was Floyd just being more crafty than we thought he was here and was laying the groundwork for something else? Oh, man. We'll see. All right, guys. Well, speaking of the craze of wild matchups we're seeing in 2021, it's been hard not to notice a collection of UFC fighters wondering what the heck they have to do to collect their multi-million-dollar paychecks. Is there a lesson for them to take out of what we're seeing right now with all these crazy fights? Let's put 2 minutes on the clock. We'll kick it back to you, Matt. Get us started.
So I think it's a broken record at this point, right? We've seen time and time again, certain fighters pointing to the paydays that they see championship boxers make. But at the end of the day, they never really do anything that sticks. We've seen various union efforts and association efforts that get a little bit of steam, but they always fall apart at the end. I think that for substantial change to happen, you have to have something like that in place in order to get on par with, the revenue share like an NBA or an NFL. It'll take a collective effort in a sport filled with individuals, but that's a tall order. What do you think, George?
Yeah, fighters just need to take a note, be relevant. What are some of these people that are cashing big checks? What are they doing? They're staying relevant. They're going out there doing their thing, making people tune in one way or another, whether you want to see them get knocked out or whether you want to see them win. So you just got to basically put the work in when it comes to your media, your social media, and not just, of course, it's wins and losses. That is the most important thing. But if you want to carve out opportunities for you, you got to be in the right place at the right time, and people have to care. And guess what? If you're going to be the bad guy, then be one hell of a bad guy. Danny Segura, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's obviously pointing out that, fighters over in the UFC and MMA, are not getting paid that much and are getting paid quite low wages when they could be making way more. I think another thing that's being pointed out here is probably the length of the contract. Before, you used to sign, or fighters used to sign, these 8-fight deals and be proud of, hey, look, I got offered this much time in the promotion. But now you got to think twice about that, because all of a sudden, Tyron Woodley, who's no longer with the UFC, is likely, or, I talked to his manager, Malky Cowan, and he said he's getting the biggest payday of his career fighting in a boxing match. And if Tyron Woodley would have signed an extensive contract, this opportunity with Jake Paul wouldn't have offered. So you also got to think about how much time you want to sign that UFC contract. Because look at the other end, GSP not fighting De La Hoya because he's still under contract. So I think that's also in the mind of fighters nowadays.
Got to think about the business side of things too, right? I mean, the fighting skills matter, but so does the marketing and all the stuff that goes into the contract. So a lot of lessons to be had here. Well, fortunately, it wasn't all just freak show fights this past weekend, guys. We did have Jairzinho Rozenstruik picking up a first-round TKO win over Augusto Sakai at UFC Fight Night 189. Now, the UFC's heavyweight title, it's a little tough to get to right now, right? You got Derek Lewis on deck, John Jones in the hole, and Stipe Miocic thinking he should get another crack at the belt as well. So tough to get there and figure out exactly what's the scenario. So if you were advising Rozenstruik right now, what matchup would you be pushing for next for Biggie Boy? Let's put 2 minutes on the clock. George, get us started.
Yeah, you know, Stipe Miocic is the greatest heavyweight of all time. And it's unfortunate, but I think he's going to get frozen out. He had the type of run where you would think, oh, give that guy an immediate rematch, especially because he's 1-1 against the current champ. But it's just not going to happen. And I think he should come to terms with it. And guess what? I don't even think he's going to get the one after that, because if they're going to go with Lewis, I think Jones is next for sure. And if they go with Jones, and I think they'll revisit Lewis. So I think zero in on Stipe Miocic. I think Jairzinho Rozenstruik should say, give me the former champ. I want to step up against him. And I think that would be the best way to kind of get past that Gane loss from a few months ago. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, it's a tough one. There's such a big line at heavyweight that you don't really know what's sort of the best circumstance here for Jairzinho. I think the best thing is just to stay ready. Obviously, we got COVID-19, so that's been taking a toll on some matchups that have fallen through on cards. Plus, MMA is just a sport that's full of injuries. So, look, if you're a heavyweight and you're willing to step up on short notice and you're healthy and you're prepared, you never know. Opportunity can come knocking, and you could be fighting for a belt at any point in time. I think the only thing that kind of hurts him is that he does have that loss to Ngannou, who's the champion, and he lost in like 20 seconds or something like that. So that doesn't always look good. So in my opinion, call out the former champion or just stay busy, but keep the ball rolling and make sure you become undeniable. What do you think, Matt?
You know what? I'm going to have to agree with our own Mike Bond on his matchmaker piece this week. Give him Curtis Blades. That's a fight that makes sense for both guys right now. Rozenstruik versus Blades. They're both guys that aren't really on that super short list for a title shot right now. I think they both still have a lot of work to do to continue to build their resumes to get themselves back in line for a title shot. So for me right now, that's the perfect fight to make. And, you know, staying ready also isn't a bad option if that fight doesn't come to fruition. Like you guys said, fights fall out left and right now. So just stay ready, be ready. But if you want to put something pen to paper, Curtis Blades.
Interesting matchups on the table, but I like what you guys are saying. Stay ready might be the best advice at all. You never know what's going to happen. Listen, there's a lot of MMA this week. It's fantastic. The PFL is back this week, and the featherweights and lightweights, they're going to sort out their playoff brackets on Thursday. But a lot of focus on that card is on the MMA debut of the boxing quote, Claressa Shields. Her boxing track record speaks for itself, but what are your expectations for her in MMA? What can we expect out of this career? Is it a freak show matchup, or is she a future champion? What's happening here? Let's put 2 minutes on the clock. Danny, get us started.
Look, this is all very interesting. Obviously, women's MMA seems to be much bigger than women's boxing. So here is Claressa Shields, a master in the sport of boxing, looking to become a master, making a big name and making big bucks as well over in the side of mixed martial arts. I'm very curious to see how she looks. Obviously, she's been getting some legit training done, so that can't hurt. But at the same time, she is fighting someone fairly decent. I mean, I believe her opponent, Brittany Elkin, is 3-6. That's almost 10 professional fights. Yes, not the best winning record, but from what I've seen, she looks to be very physically strong and relatively capable. So I just hope that Claressa Shields has done her homework, because this is not the easiest task. So if it becomes a fight that goes to the ground, if she's not prepared, she's going to have a long night ahead. So who knows? I think the debut itself will give us a good window on her ceiling in the sport.
Listen, you have to respect Claressa Shields for really taking on double duty here, because she's still going to be doing boxing and she's really taking MMA seriously. So it's going to be interesting to see how she looks inside in a cage and have to worry about kicks and have to worry about takedowns as well, while still keeping a lot of her focus on keeping her hands sharp too. So it all comes down to, what is she going to look like if she gets taken down? What is she going to look like off of her back? I mean, she's getting in training with a lot of high level training partners over there at Jackson Wink. So it's going to be really interesting to see. If she gets on her back, what does she do? That's going to be the first and foremost question that should be at the front of everybody's mind. George, what do you think?
Well, I think she's got two options. I think to James Toney and Ray Mercer. Who do you want to be? Mercer took it to the MMA fighter, and Toney let the MMA fighter take it to his world. Both went up against quality opposition, I must say. But hats off to Mercer. He pulled it off. So I think one thing she's got going that they don't is she did a proper camp. She's got the youth going for her as well. So I see her doing very, very well on Thursday night.
Yeah, I'm excited by this. It's all going to come down to how she handles the grappling, right? But she's a phenomenal athlete. And I will say, if you're not familiar with her career, ESPN Plus did a really good preview piece on Claressa Shields. Check it out over there. You're going to learn a little bit about the character of the woman as well as the athlete. So I'm looking forward to her debut. Bellator is also in action this weekend. Bellator 260, welterweight champ Douglas Lima puts his belt on the line. Now, listen, Lima has reached number 3 in the world in the USA Today Sports MMA Junkie rankings, the only rankings you should really be paying attention to, let's be honest. But all this madness about old school, fantasy matchmaking and all this chaos that's happening in the world has me thinking about the old days, like UFC Pride debates that we used to have. We knew it wasn't ever going to happen, but we still spent all the time on the message boards talking about it. So let's do the same thing with Bellator versus UFC. We know it's not ever going to happen, but styles make fights. Which reigning Bellator champion would you most like to see against a reigning UFC champion right now? Let's put 2 minutes on the clock. Matt, get us started.
Listen, Bellator has a strong lineup of champions right now, but for my money, give me Patricio Pitbull against Alexander Volkanovski. I think that fight would be absolute fireworks. Pitbull has 3 first-round finishes in his last 4 fights. The guy has just been starching everybody in Bellator. So when those things start to happen, you start to wonder, what would he look like against the UFC champion? So for me, that's the fight I would go with. I think that one would just be pure fireworks between the power and the aggression that both men bring. That's the one I'm going with. George.
Well, that's a good one, man. But when John started talking about those old days, of course, we all started thinking about Fedor. How would he do over in the UFC? Of course, we never got it. Damn you, Dana White. But Fedor's got a guy named Vadim Nemkov, and that guy's looking good. I thought, okay, he's got a couple things he's got to shore up there in terms of holes in his game, but the cardio seems to be on point. Woo, it'd be nice to see Russia and Poland get down. That would be a tough one. Blachowicz fighting is better than any other light heavyweight in these past few years. He is on fire. But I think Nemkov would have a really, really good chance if those two were to ever tangle. Danny, I'm curious to see who you got.
Yeah, I think those are 2 great options. I think probably the crown jewel is that Patricio versus Volkanovski. That definitely there's a very competitive fight. But I also want to stick to that weight class, but take things to the women's side. Amanda Nunes, I mean, at this point, who can beat her, right? Nobody. You just talk about Amanda Nunes about being levels above everybody else. At 135, who are you going to pick to beat her? 145, is there even a division anymore? But if you look over at Bellator, you still got Chris Cyborg. I know Chris Cyborg lost to Nunes, but I think in that fight, she maybe underestimated Nunes' power. Remember, Nunes' GOAT status wasn't nearly as big or wasn't really created until she defeated Cyborg. I think Cyborg still has a good shot. Obviously, the power's there. She's looked amazing. I'd love to see that one at some point. And look, if there's anyone in the world that has a shot at beating Amanda Nunes, it's Chris Cyborg.
Some great matchups, man. Got me thinking about those old school days on the message boards. Feel like I'm right back in the late 90s. But anyway, listen, it does tell you something about the Bellator roster, man. There was a time not too long ago that we wouldn't be even having debates like this. Now they're really filling things out. So they've done a lot of things to improve in the last couple of years, guys. Lastly, we wrap up this weekend with UFC 263, the blockbuster. It's got 2 title fights in there. You got a 5-round bout between top welterweight contender Leon Edwards and perennial fan favorite Nate Diaz. Those big title fight rematches. So take a look into your crystal ball and tell me which fight is going to be stealing the headlines on Sunday morning. We'll put 2 minutes on the clock. George, get us going.
It'd be easy to just grab that fruit that's hanging low and go for the ones that feature the gold, right? But I'm not going to do it. I think Nate Diaz is just such a polarizing figure. So popular. I mean, they love him win or lose because the guy comes out to scrap. And with Leon Edwards, you got another guy on the other side of the pond, who's same way, man. He's really been fighting very, very well. We haven't seen as much of him as I would like, and it was unfortunate the way the last fight ended. But still, if you look at the streak he's on, it's pretty incredible. I think that's the one everyone's going to be fighting about. There's just these channels that they can go with. With Nate, if he wins, obviously Connor Part 3 is alive and maybe running it back with BMF. doing that one again. And then if Edwards has, if he wins, he's got title aspirations, or he can do the three-piece in a solo fight, which I guess would be a BMF fight. Danny, what do you think?
I'm going to go with the main event here. To be honest, if I look at all these fights, they're somewhat predictable in different manners, right? Like, it seems Leon Edwards is going to run through Nate Diaz. We'll see. I'm not sure. The co-main event, obviously, a very good fight, but we saw it's competitive. It can go either way. And I feel like the main event, people are sleeping on Marvin Vettori. Obviously, he already lost to Adesanya. Adesanya is undefeated at 185 pounds, right? Lost, but at 205 against, a champion there. So I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on this fight. But if you look at the actual matchup and if you look at the improvements that Vettori has made, he's got a shot here. He's got a shot here, a very, very good shot. In fact, I picked him to win in the MMA Junkie staff pick. So we'll see what goes down. But I think, we can see a huge upset here, and we can see the Italian dream taking over the 185-pound division.
I don't like to strain too much reaching for fruit. So I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit here, and I'm going to go with the flyweight title fight, Figueiredo Moreno 2. The first fight was just too good. How can you not go with this fight again? And keep this in mind. If the second one is just as close with Moreno coming out with the win, hey, we got a trilogy on our hands, and who would be adverse to seeing that? So I'm going chalk here. That's going to be the fight for me. That's going to just steal the show. I think that's going to be the fight that's on the forefront of everybody's minds come Monday morning.
Yeah, 3 big fights at UFC 263, no doubt about it. Danny Segura better not be taking any trips to the 209 anytime soon, talking about Nate's just going to get run through. Careful what you're saying there.
Saying in the 305.
Guys, PFL, Bellator, UFC, Invicta's in action this weekend. We got Ryzen. It is a crazy week of MMA action. We'll talk about it all next week on Spinning Back Clique.